welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're gonna take a deep dive into a book that promises to help you talk to anyone, literally.
How to Talk to Anyone by Leil Lowndes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a secret decoder ring for social situations.
It's full of these techniques that you can use to make a better first impression.
Oh yeah, and just navigate, like parties and networking events and all those things that can be a little bit awkward. One of the first things that caught my eye was this idea of the flooding smile, which sounds a little bit intense. Like, am I just grinning at everyone I see?
No, it's more about that moment of connection.
Okay.
So it's like you pause, you acknowledge the other person, and then you let this warm smile kind of spread across your face.
Like it's just for them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're saying, hey, I see you.
I'm happy you're here.
Yes.
Okay, that makes so much more sense than just like, plastering a smile on.
Right.
Then there's sticky eyes, which also sounds a little intense.
It is a little bit intense, but it's about holding eye contact a beat longer than you normally would, kind of like your eyes are glued to theirs with warm taffy.
Okay, wait, so I'm not like staring them down, right? It's more about...
No, it's not about staring them down.
Yeah.
It's just that, holding that eye contact a little bit longer just triggers this subconscious response.
It shows you're engaged.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. Now, the book also talks about posture, and there's this image that I just can't get out of my head. It's called Hang by Your Teeth. And I'm picturing like a circus act.
That's exactly where it comes from.
Okay, good. I'm not the only one.
Imagine a trapeze artist, right? So imagine you're walking through a door and there's this invisible leather bit hanging from the ceiling. As you walk through, you just throw your head back and bite down on that bit.
Wait, I'm trying to picture this.
It forces your shoulders back.
Okay.
It opens up your chest, and you naturally tilt your chin up just slightly, creating this confident posture.
So it's like a power pose for your entrance.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like that. Now, first impressions are important, but let's be real. Some of us, myself included, absolutely dread small talk.
Yeah.
Is there any way to actually enjoy small talk, or at least make it less painful?
Yeah. Lowndes argues that a lot of the fear around small talk comes from not knowing what to say. But she has this great story about her prom date, Donnie.
Okay.
And how he had this ability to make even the most mundane topics sound fascinating.
Like he could talk about paint drying and make it sound interesting.
Exactly. It's called prosaic with passion.
I love that.
It's not about being fake. It's just bringing this genuine enthusiasm to the conversation.
Okay, so even if you're talking about something ordinary, your passion makes it extraordinary.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you about the counting horse. I mean, this is one of those things that just, when I read it, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting. So there was this horse in the early 1900s named Clever Hans.
Okay.
And Clever Hans became a sensation because he could apparently do math.
Hold on. A horse was doing math?
People would ask him questions, and he would tap out the answer with his hoof.
No way.
Everyone thought he was a genius, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that horse is a genius too.
But scientists eventually figure out that Hans wasn't actually doing math.
Oh, okay.
He was reading the subtle cues from the audience.
So their body language and...
Yeah, like their facial expressions.
Wow.
He would stop tapping when he sensed that they expected him to.
So he was like a master of reading people?
Exactly. He was an expert people reader.
That's incredible. Okay, so what does this have to do with, talking to actual humans?
Well, Lowndes calls this Hans's horse sense, and it's about being really aware of your audience's reactions even while you're talking, and adjusting your approach accordingly.
So it's kind of like you're constantly reading the room and seeing how people are responding.
Yeah, and adjusting what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Wow, that is a really powerful skill to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see how that would be useful in so many situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about first impressions, the importance of small talk, and this amazing horse who could read people's minds.
Well, not quite read their minds.
Well, kind of.
Oh?
So how do we take all of this and actually use it to keep a conversation going beyond those initial greetings?
That's where things like decoding body language and asking the right questions become really important.
Okay.
But it also goes beyond that. Lowndes talks about speaking the language of every crowd.
Wait, so do I need to learn how to speak, engineer and doctor and artist, all at once?
Not exactly. It's not about becoming fluent in every profession.
Okay.
It's more about understanding the lingo and those hot button issues that matter to different groups.
Okay.
So imagine you're at a party with a lot of doctors.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
And instead of feeling lost, you could use what she calls the read their rags technique.
Read their rags.
Basically, browse a medical journal before you go.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to become an expert, but just familiarize yourself with some of the terminology, some of the current events in that field, and it can give you those conversation starters.
So it's like doing your homework for a social event.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about first impressions, small talk, reading the room, speaking the language of every crowd. Let's talk about compliments, because everyone loves a good compliment.
Absolutely.
But is there a right way and a wrong way to compliment someone?
Definitely. A poorly delivered compliment can fall flat or even backfire.
Oh, yeah.
One technique Lowndes suggests is called grapevine glory. Instead of complimenting someone directly, which can sometimes feel awkward,
Yeah.
you tell a mutual acquaintance how impressed you are with that person.
So like if I admire someone's work ethic, I tell their friend, wow, Sarah's such a hard worker.
Exactly. And then it's like a compliment boomerang, right?
Oh.
It comes back to them in a more powerful way.
Because it wasn't said to their face.
Right.
It's like a stealth compliment. Okay, I love that. Then there's this idea of carrier pigeon kudos. Tell me more about that one.
That's right. So you overhear someone praising your friend's presentation skills.
Okay.
You make a point of telling your friend later, hey, I heard someone raving about your presentation. They were so impressed.
Oh, that's sweet. It's like you're delivering good news.
Exactly. It's a small act, but it can really make someone's day.
Okay, so we've talked about all these face-to-face interactions. But sometimes I think phone conversations can be even more nerve-wracking. Any secrets for sounding confident and in control on the phone?
One simple but powerful tip is to use the listener's name frequently.
Oh,
Even though you're not face to face, hearing their name just creates that personal connection.
Yeah, it's like you're really talking to them.
Right.
But what if I need to, gracefully avoid a call? Is there a way to do that without sounding rude?
There's this clever little trick Lowndes calls the sneaky screen. Imagine you have a really busy hotel executive, right? They're getting bombarded with calls. So instead of flat out rejecting someone, the assistant might answer and say, oh yes, Mr. Smith, let me put you right through. Even though the executive might not actually be available, the caller feels like a VIP.
Oh, that is sneaky.
It is.
But also brilliant. Like you said, it makes them feel important.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about parties. They can be a minefield of awkward silences and forced small talk.
Yeah.
How do we work a party like a politician, as Lowndes suggests?
So she offers this politician's 6-point party checklist, and one of the most surprising tips is to avoid heading straight for the food when you arrive.
Why is that? I mean, the snacks?
I know, right? But when you're eating, you're less approachable.
Oh, okay.
People see you as occupied,
Got it.
and they're less likely to strike up a conversation.
So prioritize those early conversations before you hit the buffet.
Exactly. What else is on this checklist? Well, another key point is to make an unforgettable entrance.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Think of figures like Loretta Young, who famously descended that grand staircase, or even the Pope, who surveys the crowd before speaking.
Okay.
The idea is you pause at the entrance,
Okay.
take a moment to assess the scene, and project this sense of confidence and presence.
Like you're saying, here I am, world.
Yes.
Now, the book also talks about using body language to subtly attract people. And there's this wrist flash that sounds intriguing.
It's about subtly exposing your wrists, which are considered a vulnerable and attractive part of the body.
Okay.
So think about it. It's a nonverbal signal of openness and approachability.
So even if I'm feeling shy, don't hide my hands in my pockets.
Exactly. Keep your hands visible. Use them to gesture naturally.
Okay, so open body language invites interaction.
It does. But remember, the best conversations are a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're trying these techniques, be a good listener, ask thoughtful questions, and let your genuine interest in others shine through.
So it's not just about mastering these techniques, it's about using them authentically and with real interest in connecting with people.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But what about those unspoken rules, those subtle blunders that we might be making without even realizing it? Lowndes talks about breaking through an unspoken glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Well, one of those unspoken rules is see no bloopers, hear no bloopers.
Okay.
It's about being gracious, even when someone makes a minor mistake.
Oh, I'm really good at that,
So
actually.
you're in a meeting and a high-ranking executive spills coffee all over the table.
That's my worst nightmare. But, okay, go on.
How do you react?
I would probably jump up and try to help clean it up, maybe make a joke to lighten the mood?
That's a very natural response, but Lowndes suggests a different approach.
Okay.
She describes a scenario where this exact thing happened and no one reacted.
So, like, just ignore it.
They acted as if nothing had happened.
Oh.
Because imagine the executive is already embarrassed.
Yeah, that would be mortifying.
Right, so drawing attention to it would only make it worse.
So it's about being discreet and kind of protecting their dignity, even if it means suspending my urge to be helpful.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see the wisdom in that. What about this rescue the story technique? I love that name.
So imagine someone is telling you an exciting story and then you get interrupted by a phone call.
Oh, yeah.
A less-so communicator might just move on to another topic.
Right.
But someone skilled in the art of conversation will circle back and say, now where were we? You were telling me about.
So it's like saying, your story matters to me. I want to hear the end.
Exactly.
That is so thoughtful.
It shows you're really listening and that you value their perspective.
And that brings us to another, I think, really important aspect of communication, which is the delicate dance of favors.
Yes. It's about understanding the power dynamics, both when you're asking for favors and when you're granting them.
So it's not just as simple as saying yes or no.
No, there's a lot more to it.
What are some of the things we need to keep in mind?
When you're asking for a favor, Lowndes emphasizes revealing what's in it for you.
What does that mean?
It's basically being upfront about why the favor is important and how it could benefit the person you're asking.
Okay, so it's not about manipulating them. It's about being transparent.
Exactly. Lowndes tells this story about a man who needed to find a band for this really important event.
Okay.
He initially asked casually, but didn't get anywhere.
Mm.
But when he explained how important the event was and how much finding the right band would mean to him, people were much more willing to help.
So being honest about his needs made all the difference.
Exactly.
And when granting a favor.
You want to do it gracefully without making the other person feel indebted to you.
Right. It shouldn't feel like a transaction. It should feel like genuine support.
Exactly. And sometimes, even with the best of intentions, we mess up.
Oh, yeah.
We might offend someone unintentionally, or things just go sideways.
Yeah, I've been there.
Lowndes has this technique for those situations. It's called leave an escape hatch.
Ooh, what's that?
It's about giving someone a way to save face when you catch them in a lie, or even just a minor transgression.
So, like, I shouldn't call someone out if they're being dishonest.
It depends. If it's a minor thing, like a white lie, to avoid an awkward situation, it's often more gracious to let it slide.
Okay.
You're basically giving them a way to preserve their dignity.
So it's like choosing your battles.
Exactly.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
And sometimes silence is more powerful than words.
That's a good point. Now, this might seem like a strange question, but the book talks about how to talk to service personnel. Is there really a special technique for that?
There is, and it's about treating them with the same respect and courtesy that you would anyone else.
Okay.
Service personnel often have a lot of power, even if they're not in a high-ranking position.
So, like, being nice to the waiter can actually get you better service.
It's not about being manipulative, it's about recognizing their humanity and acknowledging their importance,
Right.
even if their job seems menial.
Yeah, like they're a person, not just a server.
Right.
I love that.
Use their name if you know it.
Okay.
Express genuine appreciation for their help.
It's about making them feel seen.
Exactly.
This is all so insightful. But sometimes I feel like I'm just following the crowd, not standing out.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to become more of a leader, even in social situations?
Absolutely. Lowndes talks about making all the right moves.
Okay.
And it's about being proactive, taking initiative.
So, like, at a party, instead of waiting for someone to talk to me, I should just go up and introduce myself.
Exactly. Ask engaging questions, keep the energy up, make sure everyone feels included.
So it's like being the conductor of the social orchestra.
That's a great analogy. But remember, being a leader isn't about being the loudest or most dominant person in the room.
Right.
It's about being confident, gracious, and genuinely interested in others.
And that brings us back to, I think, the core principles of good communication, which is empathy, respect, authenticity.
Absolutely. How to talk to anyone isn't just about learning tricks.
Right.
It's about developing a mindset that allows you to connect with people in a meaningful way.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great place to pause for now.
Right.
And we'll pick up our conversation about how to talk to anyone in the next part of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already, talking about how to make a great first impression, navigate those tricky small talk situations, and even learned a thing or two from a counting horse.
Who knew a horse could teach us so much about communication? Right.
But let's be real. Sometimes we need to have more serious conversations, like asking for a raise or maybe giving someone some difficult feedback. Are there techniques for those kinds of situations too? Because honestly, those can be even more nerve-wracking than like mingling at a party.
Absolutely. You wouldn't use the same approach you might use at a cocktail party when you're dealing with something more delicate.
Right. That makes sense.
Lowndes suggests a technique called preparing them to listen.
Okay. I like the sound of that already.
It's about framing the conversation in a way that makes the other person more receptive to what you have to say.
So like setting the stage.
Exactly.
Instead of just, dropping a bomb on them.
Right. Instead of just launching right into a request or a criticism.
Yeah.
You start by acknowledging the other person's perspective.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're asking for a raise, you might begin by saying something like, I know the company's been going through some tough times lately, but I'm really proud of the work I've been doing and the contributions I've made.
So you're showing that you understand the bigger picture.
Exactly.
And that you're not just focused on your own needs.
Right.
That's really smart.
You've created a more receptive audience because you've acknowledged their perspective first. And then you can transition into talking about your accomplishments and why you deserve that raise.
Ooh, I like that. It's like you're disarming them with empathy before you present your case. Okay, what about those situations where someone's really angry or upset? Is there like a magic formula for de-escalating things and kind of turning the conversation around?
Well, there's no magic formula, but there is a technique Lowndes calls turning their anger around.
Yep, tell me more.
It involves using this specific 3-sentence formula.
Ooh, 3 sentences, I can handle that.
All right, so the first sentence is, I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do.
Okay.
The second sentence is, if I were in your shoes, I'd feel exactly as you do.
Okay.
And the third sentence is, let's see what we can do to make things right.
Wow, that's powerful. You're validating their feelings and expressing empathy, which is probably the last thing they expect when they're angry.
Exactly.
And then you're shifting the focus to finding a solution.
Right, it's a collaborative approach.
Instead of getting defensive or trying to argue.
Yeah, exactly.
You're meeting them where they are emotionally. Okay, I can see how that would be so much more effective than just yelling back or shutting down. Now, even when we try our best, we're human. We're going to mess up sometimes. We're going to offend someone. We're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, it happens.
What's the best way to recover from those blunders? Because sometimes I feel like I just make things worse when I try to fix it.
Lowndes offers a technique called my goof your gain.
Oh, I need this one.
It's not just about apologizing.
Okay.
It's about going above and beyond to make things right in a way that benefits the person you've wronged.
So, like, if you accidentally spilled coffee on a client's important document.
Oh, yeah.
My worst nightmare.
Instead of just offering to pay for the dry cleaning, you offer to stay late and help them recreate the documents.
So you're turning a negative into a positive.
Exactly.
Actually doing something helpful.
It shows integrity and a genuine desire to repair the relationship.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about preparing for tough conversations, turning anger around, recovering from blunders. What about those times when you catch someone in a lie? Should you call them out on it? Or is it better to just let it slide?
It really depends on the situation.
Okay.
If it's a minor thing, like a white lie to avoid awkwardness, it's often more gracious to let it slide.
Okay.
Especially if it's a public situation.
So, like, if someone's exaggerating their accomplishments at a networking event, I might just smile politely and change the subject.
Exactly. You're acknowledging the situation without creating a scene.
Okay, so, again, choosing your battles.
Right.
Okay, this is all making so much sense. But, we've talked about all these different settings, parties, the workplace. Are there any places or situations where we should just, avoid having serious conversations altogether?
Lowndes talks about recognizing what she calls safe havens.
Safe havens.
These are times and places where even the most assertive communication styles need to soften.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
These are situations where respect, boundaries, and trust are really paramount.
So, maybe don't bring up a contentious business deal during a casual dinner party with friends.
Exactly.
Okay.
Lowndes specifically identifies parties, the dinner table, and chance encounters as these safe havens.
Okay.
Parties are for pleasantries.
Right.
Dinners for dining. And chance meetings are for chit-chat.
Okay, so keep it light.
Keep those boundaries in mind.
Got it.
And you'll avoid a lot of awkwardness and potential conflicts.
Right. Read the room. respect the context.
Exactly.
Now, even within those safe havens, there are times when you might need to have a more serious conversation, but it's all about approaching it with sensitivity and respect.
Absolutely.
Okay, so clear and honest communication is essential.
Yes.
But always with empathy and a genuine desire to understand the other person's perspective.
I think that's a great takeaway.
It's not just about learning techniques.
Right.
It's about developing a mindset that allows us to connect with people authentically.
And build stronger, more meaningful relationships.
Exactly. It's amazing how much we've uncovered already from just this one book.
Right. There's so much to learn about how to connect with people.
And it's not just about, being charming or charismatic.
No, it's really about understanding those underlying principles.
Yeah, those unspoken rules of communication.
Like the idea of leaving an escape hatch that we talked about earlier.
Right. Giving someone a way to save face.
Yeah, when you catch them in a little white lie.
It's about being tactful and preserving the relationship.
Exactly. And it's also about choosing your battles.
Right. Not every little thing needs to be a confrontation.
Now, you might be thinking, do these techniques apply to every interaction? Even something as simple as talking to service personnel.
Yeah, is there really a special way to talk to, like a waiter?
There is, and it's all about treating them with the same respect and courtesy that you would extend to anyone else.
Right, like they're human beings too.
Exactly, and a little kindness can go a long way.
So you're saying that being nice to the waiter could actually lead to better service?
It's not about being manipulative, it's about recognizing their importance.
Right.
Even if their job might seem menial.
It's about making them feel seen and valued, not just like, invisible.
Exactly. And that principle applies to all our interactions, really.
Okay, so much to think about here.
Right. But what if you want to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm just blending in, How do you become more of a leader, even in social situations?
Lowndes talks about making all the right moves, be proactive, take initiative.
Like at a party, I shouldn't just wait for someone to talk to me. I should go up and introduce myself.
Exactly. Start conversations, keep the energy up.
Make sure everyone's included.
Yeah, it's like being the host, even if it's not your party.
Right. But it's not about being the loudest or most dominant person, is it?
No. True leadership comes from confidence, graciousness, and genuine interest in others.
And that brings us back to those core principles of good communication: empathy, respect, authenticity.
Absolutely. How to talk to anyone isn't about tricks or manipulation.
It's about connection.
It's about building meaningful relationships.
This deep dive has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how to navigate those sometimes baffling social situations.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, communication is a skill you can develop.
With practice.
Exactly. The more you practice these techniques, the more natural they'll become.
And the more confident you'll feel.
So go out there and start talking to people. You never know what amazing connections you might make.
Great advice. Thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey into the art of conversation.
It's been my pleasure. And to all our listeners, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a new and